Well, taking a little bit of a break from 3D printing for a bit, and some of this stuff that I've printed is finally going to get to put to use, I guess. I don't know. It's kind of already put to use. Before this, you've probably seen the multi-camera recordings I've made of this printer in action. There's some tweaking to do there, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, this was not meant to be its final resting place, but this is. So I gotta do some work and put the pieces and parts together. I wanted to do a rack mount PC and a rack mount battery backup, but to do the rack mount battery backup I would have needed, um, I decided it wasn't worth, I guess, basically investing that hardware. Would have been nice, but none of it would have been on Rails, so would have been kind of pointless either way. But yeah, we're going to work on integrating that stuff and that battery backup and the printer all into this cart, probably the speakers too. And yeah, basically build myself a little setup where I can keep all my 3D printing stuff nice and contained. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, and assuming he behaves, I have a supervisor that's gonna try to bite me. You'd never bite me, would you, Smokey? You'd never bite my fingers. You'd never bite my fingers. But yeah, gonna do some rearranging and moving around to stuff, and hopefully we'll have a nice little setup here. Thought about time-lapsing it, but I didn't really want to deal with that, so I'm gonna miss out on that, unfortunately. But yeah. Well, for the most part, this is all done. Had some issues. I really wanted to use that touchscreen, but it's bad. So I'm using this screen instead, which is horribly flawed. Let's see here. Yeah, that's not pretty, but it's basically the best thing I had that I liked, because I was using that monitor over there, but when that thing goes to sleep, it takes forever to wake up, and it's really annoying. So yeah, not the best for ergonomics. I was expecting to have a little bit more space, but not so much. I ended up deciding on going with a wireless keyboard. I have this fancy solar keyboard I got from a recycling pickup who knows when. And I thought, that might be fun to actually use it rather than just let it collect dust in my warehouse. The time lapse would have been horrible because I ran into problems. I wanted to plug that battery back up into my PC over USB, but I apparently don't have the right USB cable. And what would happen is the computer would randomly freeze. And according to the internet, if I understood correctly, this cable here is meant for that battery backup, but I think the internet's wrong. And since I can't find it in official documentation, I'm just kind of SOL. I did install a card reader in this because before I was using that gaming PC back there to do the slicing, and then I'd send the files to my NAS, and then I'd use my laptop to put the G code on the SD card. But yeah, that's not gonna fly. I didn't know where to put the volume control for the speakers, so I just threw it inside there, where in the front. I really shouldn't need it much, so that's kind of where it lives. I haven't done anything with this drawer yet. I don't know what's gonna officially live in here. I'm probably gonna move the tools that came with this into here, and maybe some other stuff. We'll see. I don't think this drawer is tall enough for filament, so I won't store a roll of filament in there. Since I didn't go rack mount, I believe I have enough space right there for one of those filament drying things, so I might keep that in mind and try that out. And yeah, as you can see, I'm testing the recording right now. It seems like this computer is going to be powerful enough to do 1080p, but definitely not 4K. 4K was bogging it down. I've not figured out a good way to get these to focus. They're just too cheap and low quality. You can see there's a lot of noise and sparkles. And this one is just so blurry. I mean, it's kind of distinguishable, but once you take this and you squish it down to 720p, it's not great. So I don't know what to do about that. I may replace that with my GoPro when I'm not using the GoPro. Even though it's kind of silly, but whatever. If I'm not using the GoPro, it doesn't really matter, I guess. The other ones for the side and front view, I'll probably just leave as is. I think, if anything, I could make this a diagonal view. And then I get all three angles basically of the print. Up top, up front, and then on diagonal. But yeah, we'll see. This clamp wasn't intended to be for cable management, but its task is to hold those cables right now because I didn't know where to put them. I figured it'd be nice to use these side USB ports to run the webcams rather than have to cable manage the cables all the way across the table. And I have some of the cables tidied up. I did leave the power cord for the printer separate from everything, just in case I bump this. I don't want to accidentally unplug it. Yeah. Also, a funny story. I probably shouldn't have set that printer on this foam pad because I guess there's a fan on the bottom. So, oops, I may have been overheating that a little. Oops, watch my fingies. This doesn't feel overly hot though, so yeah. The motors, the stepper motors get awfully hot though, which I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, one of them is labeled that, you know, it gets hot. Well, I guess this one is too here. So, got a trip on the cord. Yeah, so that's that. I have the cord, which just feeds out the back. I don't really want to make holes in this thing, so I'll have to think about where I want to stow the cord if I'm gonna have this unplugged, like for transport. I might use one of these screws and see if I can 3D print like a hook that I can hang. Also, depending on how hot things get in here, I might try to print some adapters or brackets so I can screw a 120mm fan or two on here for exhaust. But being that this is wide open and I have this mesh cover plate here, I think everything will be okay. I have no control over the fact that the battery backup fan runs constantly, and I'm hoping that's not bad. I don't believe the battery backup is being pushed too hard. Also, another problem is I have all these cables here, so I might need to rethink these cables. Maybe get them up higher or something. I haven't decided. Also, I have a big mess to clean up. I will have to get all this situated. Some of this is from other stuff. But yeah, I guess one other thing out of curiosity would be to see how much pull I have in the battery backup. I'm going to guess probably about 250 watts. 32 minutes of runtime. Oh, a little lower than I thought. It kind of fluctuates. It depends on how much extruding and movement the printer is doing. But looks like maybe 220's peak. So the battery backup is plugged into this, which is nice because if I accidentally kill power, I shouldn't lose anything. Yeah. And battery backup's currently running the 3D printer, but I should probably not do that. So that'll be nice. That allows me to not lose where I'm printing if power browns out. It's probably not great for the 3D printer to run on the battery backup since that's dirty power. But honestly, since the 3D power is, or the 3D printer is probably more of an inductive load anyways from the motors and the heating elements, it's probably doing more harm to the battery backup than the other way around. But yeah, hopefully this will work out. Ideally, I'm going to move this out in the warehouse into my vault because it's climate controlled. I don't know what the humidity is in here is right now, but the PLA is probably not too happy about it. I don't know how much moisture it's absorbed so far. And it doesn't look like there's any like sputtering or bubbling or whatever the issues are that would happen if it was getting too moist. But yeah, it's definitely something I need to keep in mind. I think if anything, if I get to a point, I might take the filament off the stand and make a deskant box or something, or figure out a way to dry it out. But yeah, hopefully this will work out. And then I don't know what the reception of this style of recording is going to be like versus using the GoPro as a webcam, but hopefully it comes off well. From a continuity standpoint, I believe I will have some recordings like this out before this video, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. But hopefully that's interesting. Really, I think the next thing I would want to do with this would be put it in an enclosure, but honestly, I don't really think I'm going to gain anything from that other than controlling the fumes, which I can't smell, but I'm sure they're not healthy, so yeah. Either way, it's probably enough for a ramble. Hopefully that was interesting, and thanks for watching.